And we are live. I love saying that at the beginning. I feel like I'm sort of in Times Square on New Year's Eve. So welcome everybody to today's Ames show. We are, as you can see at the bottom, going to be talking about how to find and make use of a virtual PA. And we are joined by Catherine Gladwyn. Hello, Catherine. And we'll come to you for an introduction in a second. But first, we're going to our little whispering soldier over here, Mike Ames. How you doing, Mike?
Well, I'm feeling okay, but I can't speak. So I'm here to be, generally supportive, and you can make fun of me, which is the most important thing. But I think Catherine's going to do most of the talking, as it should be. She's the talent. But I'm okay, actually. And we're delighted to have Catherine actually on the show because VAs, I think, we've been around for ages, but they began to really bite in last year during the lockdown. People trying to do more with less, I guess. And VAs started to become more popular. And you mentor VAs, don't you? You must really know the VA space. So, it's an amazing area, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I started my VA journey back in 2015. I hit the VA scene then and quickly turned it into a business where I was earning 4 times what I was as a full-time employee. I wasn't earning much as a full-time employee. I live in a small town, but I'd managed to replace my income and then some quite quickly. I then wrote a book, which became a #1 bestseller, has won a couple of awards, been listed in The Independent as one of 10 top business books written by women. And it's titled How to Be a Virtual Assistant. And then because of the success of that, I started mentoring VAs as well. So I help them to really grow their business and bring in a good income and have longevity.
Very some of that knowledge is going to be shared today. So over to you, Kirsty. Anyway, I'll just do this through the medium of dance, probably.
We've all agreed as well. If you have to cough, Mike has to mute himself. So if he doesn't, feel free to shout at him in the comments. So
it was pretty horrendous.
No, it's not something you want to share. So before we get started, anybody who's watching, anybody's listening, let us know if you use or have used a VA and what your experience has been like in the comments, because we'd love to know.
Or if you're thinking of VA as well, that would be interesting.
That one's always good as well. So Catherine, I think I'm going to come in and slightly off a tangent. I'm going to ask you, VA, what kind of things can they actually do? What sort of things can they do for me and my business?
Good question, because a lot of people think that a VA is just a virtual personal assistant. So as if it's just going to be somebody that does the old secretarial stuff, like typing a few documents and diary and inbox management. And there are VAs that do that, absolutely, and they're bloody good at it because most VAs come from an admin or PA background. But what we can also do, or a lot of VAs can do, is email marketing. They can do database management. They can do, mine goes blank, social media management. They can do competitor research, which is a good one because you can't sign up to your competitors' newsletters, can you, and do things like that yourself unless you create some fake email addresses or something like that. So your VA can do that for you. Website management. So you know how it is if you've got a WordPress website and you go on just to change a blog slightly, and then 4 hours later you've got stuck down a rabbit hole. You've completely rebranded and designed a whole new website. So VAs can do that for you. And there's tech support as well. So there's pieces of software in the business world that I'm sure many of the listeners have heard of. So there's things like Kajabi, MailChimp, MailerLite, ActiveCampaign, Kartra, Teachable, all things like that. And there's different VAs specialize in different areas. So that it's a whole array of things. And towards the end of this, I'm going to share something with you on how to identify what tasks you can outsource so that you can find the right VA.
We're definitely going to look forward to that. Stick around.
Just have 2 seconds, and that's all I'll be speaking for.
You can try. Try.
Basically, what you're saying is then pretty much any person that you could hire as a permanent employee, you can get someone to do that as a virtual assistant. That's pretty much what you're saying.
Yeah, spot on. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Impressive,
so,
isn't it?
Sort of on that then, what is the difference between me having an employee and me having a VA? What's the main difference between the two?
So an employee, you've got to have HR contracts, so you've got to do all of that. You've got to make sure all of that is up to speed. You've got to think about your pension contributions. You've got to find software licenses, and you've got to look at tax and national insurance. You've got to look at your own insurance, your business insurance, and with an employee, you've got to find office space for them as well. I know that's kind of different at the moment because a lot of us are still working, or a lot of people are still working from home, but things probably will go back to normal. Whereas with a virtual assistant,
I just want to say just on that as well. There is this thing where today in recruitment is an EVP, an employee value proposition. In other words, what's the offering that you're going to make to your potential employees to get them to come and work for you and then continue to work for you? You don't have any of that with a virtual assistant. They're not coming for a career move, are they? They don't want personal development. They don't need their annual appraisals. They don't need any of those things. It's not necessary.
No, absolutely not. And a virtual assistant is a self-employed business owner, just like you. So they cover all of their insurance. They cover their licenses. They cover their tax, their national insurance. They sort all of that out. All you do is pay them their hourly rate for the work that they've done for you. You don't even have to find work for them some months if you've got them on an ad hoc basis. So that is the difference between a VA and an employee. They are a self-employed business owner, just like you.
Okay, all right. I know in a second we're going to get into pros and cons. We've had a couple of comments. So Paul says, Mike, you need to cut down your 50 a day smoking habit. I think that's what's going on. That's what's going on there. We've got Gavin, who says he's definitely thinking about using a VA. So Gavin, we've got Catherine here. If you've got questions, you let us know and we'll make sure that we get them asked. And
stick with us, Gavin, because I've got a download that you will find really useful as well. It's ever so brief. Everything I do is brief. So you'll like that, I'm sure.
There we go. And I think, Catherine, you're going to really like this comment from Mike Moreno, which is do what you do best and outsource the rest. I feel like that's something you're going to enjoy.
Yeah, Michael, if you trademark that, if not, then I might get that. I like that. Do you know, that's a nice title for a book. Michael, we should perhaps talk. I'll give you 20 quid for that line. I like that.
I think Michael might be American, so you might need a few more dollars than that. I think.
Maybe a few more. Yeah, it's okay. So what I want to do now is what I imagine a lot of people are, because I know I've heard the term sort of VA thrown around, and you hear a lot of pros, but you also hear a lot of cons. So let's sort of delve into them first. So I think we should probably start with the pros. Like, what are the biggest advantages that I get from using a VA over a traditional employee?
Okay, so the biggest advantages are cost. And the reasons for that are you don't need to, as I said previously, you don't need to pay for any additional expenses. So they've got their own home office. They're working from their home office. They're paying for their electricity. There's so many things that we don't consider, but they're paying for their electricity, their insurance, their registrations with relevant bodies. If you've got a VA that does bookkeeping for you, they're paying that 450 quid a year to HMRC to be registered for money laundering. They're paying for their insurance. They're making sure that they've got their paper in the printer, and they
pay for their own training if they need any.
That is a huge one, Mike. They pay for their own training. That's something so important, because if perhaps you've got an employee that does diary and inbox management for you, but you're expanding your business and you want to do a bit of email marketing, you need to train that employee up. So you've got to pay for all of that. It's their time, and their time equals your money. And perhaps they'll never be good at it. Some people just aren't good at things. Whereas
you train them and they go with your training that you've given.
Yeah, that old chestnut. Yeah. But with a VA, you can take on a VA that specializes in that area that you need. So, for example, I've got an associate that does email marketing for my clients, and he runs a clinic on Harley Street, and his assistants just sort out his appointments, and not just, but they sort out his appointments in his diary and make sure he's where he needs to be, and clients are where they need to be. And he doesn't want his assistants to do the email marketing because he doesn't feel it's their strong area. So he's outsourcing that to a VA. So he's got employees, but he's also got a VA to do the bits that they can.
We're also talking here flexibility and the skill ranges. So it's very difficult to get somebody who's best of breed at everything in one person, an employee. But if you hire 2 or maybe 3 VAs, because you don't just have to have one, do you?
No.
You have more than one. then you get best of breed for the thing that you want from that person. And
Absolutely.
if you can take them out and replace them with someone else, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was mentoring a VA just before, because I'm currently just getting ready for an operation. So I'm not doing much work at the moment. My VAs are doing it for me. But I was mentoring a VA recently, and we were trying to niche down her services so that she appealed to the right people and wasn't trying to be all things to everybody. And she enjoys the tech side of being a VA. She likes to help people with software. And I said to her, right, okay, give me 5 pieces of software that you're good at. And she said, oh, I can't. I'm good with all of them. I'm great with all of them. But you can't do that. So I encourage VAs to specify exactly what it is they do. And then that makes it easier for the business owners to find them.
Niche almost, to take a niche.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the thing. If you want Kajabi, then I'm the person that can do Kajabi for you.
Yes. Absolutely.
So on that then, just on that, Catherine, so I'm assuming if you're picking someone who's got a specific niche, then it's possible for you to have more than one VA that does what. So you do a VA who does A, a VA who does B, and a VA who does C, rather than looking for one employee who does A, B, and C. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Completely, absolutely. And I think it's actually really important to avoid anybody that says that they can do everything. Because
interesting.
You can't be an expert at everything. You just can't. So if you've got somebody that perhaps could do diary and inbox management, and they could also write your newsletters for you, and they could also do sales calls for you. You know, it's all getting a bit much. What it would be better is to have somebody that focuses on email marketing so that they are really good at it. So you get the best people.
One of the reasons I'm so keen on this and that we wanted to get you on the show is that the term that's been bandied around, it's quite an old term really, but it's smart sourcing is the term, where you basically pick the best personal supplier for each of the functions. You don't just say, well, okay, we're going to ship all that to you and I'm sure you'll be fine with it. You do as Kirsty said, you figure out what you need doing, which we're going to talk about later, and then pick someone to do that for you. But I like it because a lot of the companies I work with are one-man bands. And they want to scale up, they want to hire someone, but it's like a big thing. Whereas engaging a VA, in other words, building a virtual team. For those people that haven't read it, check out Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week. It's fantastic. It's this like to the nth degree. But for those people who are looking to grow their business, you can build a virtual team before you build a real team. And that's right, isn't it? So it's a step towards where they want to be, Catherine.
Yeah, and it's probably wrong of me to say, but with employees, you've got to go through these this bloody rigmarole, haven't you, with trying to find out whether, sorry for swearing, but for trying to tick, they can do this, they can do that, but you can't actually recruit somebody based on that gut feeling, can you, when you're doing employee or who you think would gel well with your team or get on with you. It's got to be on skills. Whereas with a VA, you can also go on that gut feeling as well. You can have a Zoom call with them, and you haven't got any of that nonsense HR. You've not got a appease Holly in HR that wants you to tick all these forms and everything. You can just find the right person based on the aspects that are important to you.
Yeah, and I suppose everybody's happier because I've worked as an employee, and when you do a wide-ranging role, you have to do things that you don't really like, and you don't really like, and if you end up doing more of that because that's what they want you to do, you end up getting unsatisfied and not happy at work. Whereas with the VA, they're doing things that they enjoy or that they're very good at and want to spend time in. So you don't have any of that, like, please do this, even though I don't know you don't like it. You could just find someone else to fill that role.
Such a good point. That is such a good point. Yeah. And a lot of people can't say no. They worry that they're going to lose the client completely if they say no. But that's why if there are any VAs listening, I always encourage them to only take on work they enjoy, because otherwise they'll mess up and it messes up their reputation. And that's so important.
Okay, so now, because I know there's going to be people out there who are thinking, well, I know some cons about. So let's look at the cons. Let's look at why perhaps people wouldn't do it, or what's stopping people from doing it. So what are the main cons for you?
There's none, absolutely none.
That's not what you said in rehearsals. My goodness.
But I'm a little bit biased, aren't I? So the cons. I mean, if you like working with somebody face to face, then a virtual PA is probably not for you. We don't do face to face. Our time, a VA's time is money. So if you want somebody that's face to face, you're going to have to pay for their travel time and things like that. And the reason for that is because if they're traveling to your office, that's time they can't work for somebody else. They're losing money. If you're somebody that always has a need to speak on the phone, like, can we have a 5-minute call and this and that, again, you're going to have to pay for that because time is money. If you're somebody that micromanages, a VA isn't good for you either, because if you're constantly checking in saying, what about this? What have you done with that? How far are you with that? It's, again, you're wasting your own time and money, because if they're having to answer your questions, that clock is still going and you're still going to get charged for that.
This is an interesting point, because I wouldn't say, in my experience of using VAs, we've used quite a few, Pete uses them all the time, is that I wouldn't say they're better than your permanent staff, but they're probably better at what they do, their niche or their thing, than your average jack of all trade in your business. And so therefore they know exactly what they're doing. And if they're not much good, and I'm sure you get some poor ones out there, you'll figure that out real quick and they're off and you get someone else. But it really does, when you hire someone, they know what they're doing. It's like dealing with a professional. And so whereas you perhaps feel you have to micromanage people in your business, not that I do, but some people do, I think with VA, it's not the case at all. It's counterproductive, and it will probably cause that person ultimately to leave you because they don't want to be managed like that.
Yeah.
Isn't that the case?
And another con as well could be, if you want somebody there available for you 9 till 5 that does something as soon as you click your fingers, then you're better off getting an employee, because some VAs do work just evenings and weekends. They do the work then because they are managing home and children, or they're still working an employed role and starting to make that transition. So, I mean, if you want, what I say to my VAs is I want a reply to my emails within 2 hours. That is just my preference. I don't want to be sat there thinking, right, it's been 2 days since I've heard from them. This isn't how I want to work. So I always specify it's 2 hours that I would like a reply in. And if anybody can't do that, then I'm not the best client for them, and they're not the best VA for me. So you can specify what you want from a VA, but if you do want somebody there that's 9 till 5, then you're going to have to specify that and avoid somebody that only works evenings or weekends.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got some questions coming, I think.
We have got some great questions. So there's one question that has sort of just come up, which is interesting because it's what I want to lead into now, which is why I'm going to bring it up, which is Gavin, which is, are there specialized sites apart from Fiverr to find VAs? And the reason I want to bring this up is now I want to go into, so somebody's watching this and thinking, okay, you're really selling VAs to me. How is it that I go about finding one?
Okay, so the first thing to do is to come to me, because I can find you. I can find you a VA. I can help you define exactly what you need, help you sort out that task list to work out what you're going to outsource and find you the right VA for your business. There are other sites out there. There are Fiverr, there's Upwork, there's other agencies out there. I'm not a recruiter, by the way. All of my VAs are self-employed. But yeah, you can have somebody else find it for you, find your VA for you.
But if you wanted to find yourself, then you do have to dig around on these sites, really. Well, the other thing I found
there is another way. You can write a clear brief of exactly what you want that VA to do. So if you want them to be your Kajabi manager or something like that, then you specify, I need somebody that's proficient and efficient with Kajabi. I'm going to need them to update it once a week for me. If this is you, get in touch. You can put a post on social media, but do be clear with your brief.
I was just about to say on that, because we ran a post a few months ago now, because we wanted some VAs to pass on to our clients. I mean, we don't make money out of it or anything, but we just wanted to do the introductions, and I put a post out there, and I was surprised how many people actually did respond to it. So I think that's a really good piece of advice. What we didn't do was the brief, because there were lots of briefs, because it was lots of different clients. But if you've got a brief, write it out, stick it as a LinkedIn post, whack it out there, and I guarantee you'll get some interest. Whether they'll be the right people, I can't say, but you will get some interest for sure.
And can I share a secret tip at this point that I've...
Please do, yes.
So if you do a post, my tip is to write on the bottom, if you're interested, please email me, no DMs. And then what you will get is you will get some DMs, and you will get people that just comment on the post. And those people can be eliminated straight away because they've not followed the instruction on the post.
Hey.
So if they've not done that, then they're not going to be very good at following instruction. Yeah, drops mic, walks off, end of conversation.
You can just, that's it now. That's the whole LinkedIn Live is perfect just for that. Just that one tip.
Yeah.
Just that one tip. I love it. That's a fantastic.
TEDx are going to be on the phone. I know they are now.
Perfect. Okay, so with this, I do have a follow-up question about finding a VA, which is this one, which is from Gavin, which is there a difference between using a local or an offshore VA? So if I'm finding one, how do I know whether I want somebody who's local? Do I want somebody who's offshore? What are the big pros and cons, I suppose, to that?
Sure. So for me, I only work with people that are within a 2-hour time frame. So that if I give them something to do, then they can start it within my time zone. And then if there's any problems, they come back within my time zone so that I can answer those. Whereas if you're dealing with somebody that is on the other side of the world with a 12-hour difference, if there's any problems, they're asking you while you're in bed, you're replying while they're in bed, and then you've got days of conversations and things like that. So think about whether you're going to want somebody in your own time zone for that purpose. I'm no legal expert at all, but GDPR and data protection is completely different in other countries, as your audience will be aware. So if you're sharing anything, like if you're giving them access to your email marketing software, there's no laws or potentially different laws that they could sell that data and you could get into a whole heap of trouble. Communication, I mean, there's people in other countries that are English, so communication wouldn't necessarily be a problem. And even if they're not English, they can usually speak much better English than we can anyway. So communication often isn't a problem. You also do need to check with your insurance. I mean, especially since we left the EU, some insurers don't cover you to work with people outside the EU that are in the EU. So do check things like that and check that your contract is sound for people, and if you ask people to sign an NDA and they're based in the Philippines, it don't mean anything to them, does it? So,
in my experience of working with recruiters particularly, it seems that on balance, you've really got to work so much harder if you take someone that's offshore to make it work. And the chances of it working a lot less. So I've known people that use, say, Indian resources, and eventually they've got to an organization or somebody within an organization that absolutely works, but they've had to kiss an awful lot of frogs to reach that prince. And in many cases, people just give up because you're saving money. You're paying $5 an hour as opposed to, say, 25 quid an hour or something, whatever. But actually, it's not that big a value. It's better to go with onshore. And that would be my advice if you can.
Yeah.
Except things like researching, which is a little different.
And I stay away from Fiverr and Upwork because, again, you don't know who these people are. And what I tend to look for in my VAs is that they've got a website, that they've got a social presence, that they are serious about this business, that they're not just trying to make a bit of extra money for Christmas or a holiday or something like that, that they're going to be around for a while. I've worked with one of my clients for 4.5 years. I'm around for the long haul. And I think that's important to build those relationships and start taking on other people's businesses and understanding them. And that relationship just gets better and better.
Okay. So on that then, I know probably Kirsty was going to come to this, but I'm interested now. So because I've seen so many horror stories, or heard so many horror stories, how do you make a VA relationship work and work well?
I think by being clear at the start of what the brief is, what the expectations are, what you want done. As a business owner, we should always have boundaries in place, but equally that VA will as well. So it's finding a good working relationship. You will get people that you work with, and over time you think, do you know what, we just aren't a good fit, match. We're not going to go any further. And I think, again, that's the beauty of working with a VA as opposed to an employee, and vice versa, is we can get rid of clients, or VAs can get rid of clients, and clients can get rid of VAs if it's not working. It doesn't matter. That's the beauty of it. You can just then find another one.
Back in the 90s, when we used to do IT outsourcing, it was always about the interface. So if you got the interface wrong, the way in which you pass work across and get it back from the supplier, is crucial. The way in which you communicate and the way in which you check whether what's been done is what you expected to have been done. Is that still the same with VAs?
I was thinking about something else as you were saying that, Mike, and I must apologise. Could you say it again?
I don't know if I can actually, really.
He's barely got any voice and you're making him say it twice.
I'm so sorry.
Cruel girl. The interface between the supplier and you, the client, is all important in outsourcing, which is my background. And so is it still the case here that you have to get the passing of work that way and then receiving back of work this way to get that interface absolutely nailed? Because if you don't, it won't work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a VA that helps me connect with people on LinkedIn. So I just give her a brief of who I want, and then she goes off and finds those people for me. It's just a time thing. I could do it myself, like with most tasks that you outsource. You can do it yourself, but it's sometimes easier to get somebody else to do it. So what I say to her is, I'd like you to spend 2 hours this month doing it, and I'd like it done in the next 3 weeks. Something like that. So a clear brief so that I can just give it to her, go away, she does it, she comes back, says done, sends me an invoice at the end of the month. So yeah, that communication is really important. And to get that nailed at the beginning, and this is what I was thinking about when you were talking the first time, Mike, so I do apologize. But you know, I've had VAs say to me, oh, my client's doing my head in, WhatsApps me on a Sunday or WhatsApps me in the evening. And I'm like, how did they get your number? I gave it to them. How long have they been WhatsApping you? Oh, since we started working together. How many times have you said to them that you don't accept a WhatsApp? I haven't. You can't complain about it then. You're going to have to go back on that WhatsApp and say, sorry, can we revert to email, because I can't remember when a WhatsApp comes through. Yeah, so
you kind of need a partnership agreement, don't you, where the VA says, look, I need to work like this, and you as a client say, well, I need to work like this. Bring it together and hopefully it matches, or you can massage it in. And then with the partnership agreement, and if both sides stick to it, you're good to go, are you really?
When I was first a VA, I mean, I started my own business because of my health problems, and I've got a need to nap quite a bit because of various health problems. So I don't do quick 5-minute phone calls. Zoom calls have to be booked in and things like that. So I had a potential new client way back when I started my business, and what she wanted was a Zoom call every Monday morning at 10 o'clock, and then on a Friday at 5 p.m. she'd like a Zoom call to just check in and see what had happened every week. And I said, I can't do that. I just no way I can do that. And she was going to be quite a big retainer. She was going to give me quite a few hours a month, but it just wasn't going to work for me. And I had to say no, because my boundaries are in place for a reason. She now works with another VA, or she went off and worked with another VA, and it obviously worked for somebody else, but it wasn't going to work for me. And if I'd have done that, then that relationship wouldn't have lasted very long, because I couldn't have coped.
Yeah. So the other thing is budget, because we've got a question here from Gavin, which is sort of, what is the hourly rate for a VA? What sort of thing would you expect? And I assume that massively depends on what you're asking them to do. Does it?
No.
Or is it pretty much standard? Okay.
It's standard, yeah. So there is, the hourly rate can range from anything from £25 to £35 in the UK, and that is it. Okay. There's no other expenses, as we mentioned earlier. It's that. Many VAs do offer packages as well. So perhaps you could have, I know a lot of them do holiday inbox for perhaps £199 for a week or something like that, where if you go on holiday, they can watch your inbox and diary for you. But yeah, £25 to £35. And you can either work with them on an ad hoc basis. So if you've just got an hour's worth of work to do for a month, then they'll just do it for an hour. Or you can work with them on a retained basis. So if you know that you're going to want perhaps 5 hours every month from a VA, then you can retain their time. I encourage VAs not to charge less for retainers. And the reason for that is it's still their time. And if they're charging less, then they've got to make those lost hours up somewhere else, that lost money somewhere else. The incentive of you having your VA on retainer is you know what your expenses are going to be every month. And also the VA turns things around quicker because you've retained their time and it's stuck in their diary there.
Okay. And I assume when you're engaging someone, it is really clear to be like, I need this amount of work doing, figuring out the pay to make sure the budget is agreed in advance before anything started doing. That's a key thing to get straight, right?
Absolutely. So, you know, if you engaged a VA that's £35 an hour and your budget is £140 a month, then you can afford 4 hours of that VA's time. And you say to that VA, you know, I don't want you going above 4 hours. And if you make that clear, then they're not going to do it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I mean, we've had quite a few questions, so I know there are some questions I haven't answered. So, Catherine, I believe that people can connect with you, or I'm sure you can go through the answers and you'll kind of and write on there. But what I want to do is the same thing I always do on this show. It's the same thing we always do on the Mike Ames show, Kirsty Ames show. Is I like something that people can go away with that's very practical. So somebody's watching this and they're thinking, right, VA. Definitely something I'm interested in doing. What is the first step for them? What should they go away right now? Pen and paper. What should they do now?
Okay, pen and paper, definitely. So get that piece of paper, put it landscape, and I want you to write 3 columns. So 3 columns on that bit of paper. The first column is headed up can't, the second is won't, and the third is shouldn't. And underneath each heading, I want you to put the tasks that you either can't do yourself, won't do yourself, or shouldn't be doing yourself, because, well, you just shouldn't. And then those are the things that you can outsource. I suggest starting with the can't column when you come to outsource, because if you can't do something, it's just going to either sit on your to-do list, or it's going to take you so long to do because you're determined to try and work it out. We've all been there. I lost 6 hours of my life on ClickFunnels once, you know. And I really should have just outsourced it, but I was too pig-headed. But actually, can I also say that all of the tips are in this little gem as well?
There we go. Oh, they're oh. So if, like, I know you mentioned earlier, obviously you've got your book, which was a bestseller, which is fantastic. And is that available on Amazon, I'm guessing?
Yeah, Amazon and Kindle. Yeah.
Perfect. So, but you also mentioned earlier that you had a white paper that people could get from you.
Yes. So it's katherinegladwyn.co.uk/outsource.
Okay, outsource. And if I assume if people connected to you on LinkedIn, they could get it that way as well, could they?
Absolutely, yeah. Just send me a DM and I will send you the link through. It'd be great to connect with whoever's.
You do send her a DM and not an email, because seriously.
Yeah. We've asked for a DM now. We've asked for a DM, right. So, I mean, I think that's been a really fantastic show. I feel like I understand way more about VAs than I did before. I actually had some misconceptions, which you've lovingly cleared up. Thank you very much, Catherine. So what I will say is thank you so much for being here today. I believe we've had loads of questions. As I said, people got really involved with it. And thank you to Mike, who's tried his hardest. I've actually stolen his voice in some sort of Little Mermaid sort of escapade, but done very well.
I'm really pleased he didn't die on the call, because I was quite worried about that at the beginning.
Yeah, I would have booted him off the stream. No one would have known. It would have been fine. So next week, Mike, I believe we're talking about scalability.
We are, yeah. It's kind of a key thing. It's becoming increasingly important. And that's one of the reasons I wanted Catherine to come on the show today, because I think VAs can be in the scalability mix. So we're going to look at scalability. We're going to dig deep for those people that do want to scale their business up a little bit next Thursday. So look forward to seeing you for that then.
It's going to be fantastic. 12:30. Hopefully Mike will be able to speak properly by then. But once again, Catherine, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been fantastic. And thank you to everybody who has been watching us.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. They're great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys.